For obvious reasons, I preferred my house to his for the games of chess we had 2 or 3 times weekly. He looked like some old battered idol as he sat with his pudgy hands in his lap and stared at the board as if it were a corpse. Wheezing, he would meditate for 10 minutes, then make a losing move. Or the good man, even after more thought, might utter, "Au revoir," with a slow old dog woof that had a gargling sound at the back of it, which made his jowls wobble. And then he would lift his circumflex eyebrows with a deep sigh as I pointed out to him that he was in check himself. Sometimes from where we sat in my cold study, I could hear Lo's bare feet practicing dance techniques in the living room downstairs. But Gaston's outgoing senses were comfortably dulled, and he remained unaware of these naked rhythms. And 1 and 2, weight transferred on a straight right leg, leg up and out to the side, and 1 and 2, weight transferred on a straight right leg, leg up and out to the side, and 1 and 2. And only when she started jumping, opening her legs at the height of the jump and flexing one leg, and extending the other, and flying and landing on her toes, only then did my pale, pompous, morose opponent rub his head or cheek as if confusing those distant thuds with the awful stabs of my formidable queen. Sometimes Lola would slouch in while we pondered the board, and it was every time a treat to see Gaston, his elephant eyes still fixed on his pieces, ceremoniously rise to shake hands with her, and forthwith release her limp fingers, and without looking once at her, descend again into his chair to topple into the trap I had laid for him. One day around Christmas, after I had not seen him for a fortnight or so, he asked me, "Et tout vos fillettes, ils viennent bien?" From which it became evident to me that he had multiplied my unique Lolita by the number of sartorial categories his downcast, moody eye had glimpsed during the whole series of her appearances. Blue jeans, a skirt, shorts, a quilted robe. I am loath to dwell so long on the poor fellow. Sadly enough, a year later, during a voyage to Europe from which he did not return, he got involved in a sale histoire, in Naples of all places. I would have hardly alluded to him at all, had not his Beardsley existence had such a queer bearing on my case. I need him for my defence. There he was, devoid of any talent whatsoever, a mediocre teacher, a worthless scholar, a glum, repulsive, fat old invert, highly contemptuous of the American way of life, triumphantly ignorant of the English language. There he was in priggish New England, crooned over by the old and caressed by the young, having a grand time and fooling everybody. And here was I. I am now faced with the distasteful task of recording a definite drop in Lolita's morals. If her share in the ardours she kindled had never amounted to much, neither had pure lucre ever come to the fore. But I was weak, I was not wise. My schoolgirl nymphette had me in thrall. With the human element dwindling, the passion, the tenderness, and the torture only increased, and of this she took advantage. Her weekly allowance, paid to her under condition she fulfil her basic obligations, was 21 cents at the start of the Beardsley era, and went up to $1.05 before its end. This was a more than generous arrangement, seeing she constantly received from me all kinds of small presents, and had for the asking any sweetmeat or movie under the moon. Although, of course, I might fondly demand an additional kiss, or even a whole collection of assorted caresses, when I knew she coveted very badly some item of juvenile amusement. She was, however, not easy to deal with. Only very listlessly did she earn her 3 pennies or 3 nickels per day, and she proved to be a cruel negotiator whenever it was in her power to deny me certain life-wrecking, strange, slow, paradisal philters without which I could not live for more than a few days in a row, and which, because of the very nature of love's languor, I could not obtain by force. Knowing the magic and might of her own soft mouth, she managed, during one school year, to raise the bonus price of a fancy embrace to 3, even 4 bucks. O reader, laugh not, as you imagine me on the very rack of joy, noisily emitting dimes and quarters, and great big silver dollars like some sonorous, jingly, and wholly demented machine vomiting riches. And in the margin of that leaping epilepsy she would firmly clutch a handful of coins in her little fist, which anyway I used to pry open afterwards unless she gave me the slip, scrambling away to hide her loot. And just as every other day, I would cruise all around the school area and on comatose feet visit drugstores and peer into foggy lanes and listen to receding girl laughter in between my heart-throbs and the falling leaves. So every now and then I would burgle her room and scrutinize torn papers in the wastebasket with the painted roses and look under the pillow of the virginal bed I just made myself. Once I found 8 $1 notes in one of her books, fittingly Treasure Island, and once a hole in the wall behind Whistler's mother yielded as much as $24 and some change, say $24.60, which I quietly removed, upon which next day she accused to my face honest Mrs. Holligan for being a filthy thief. Eventually she lived up to her IQ by finding a safer hoarding place, which I never discovered. But by that time I had brought prices down drastically by having her earn the hard and nauseous way permission to participate in the school's theatrical programme. Because what I feared most was not that she might ruin me, but that she might accumulate sufficient cash to run away. I believed the poor fierce-eyed child had figured out that with a mere $50 in her purse she might somehow reach Broadway or Hollywood, or the foul kitchen of a diner, help wanted, in a dismal ex-prairie state, with the wind blowing and the stars blinking, and the cars and the bars and the barmen, and everything soiled, torn, dead.